How are all of you? I appreciate all of you. Welcome to SPSM Chat 3.0. My name is Rudy Caseres, at Rudy Caseres on Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook and YouTube, and you can find us on Mixer, the SPSM Chat account, mixer.com/SPSM Chat, youtube.com/SPSM Chat, twitter.com/SPSM Chat, and facebook.com/SPSM Chat. I appreciate you all who are joining us live, especially if you're on Twitter or home base. Make sure to use the hashtag SPSM on all of your tweets. That way we can see it. We can give you some love. We can retweet you and make sure that you're feeling like you're part of the conversation. So our guest this week, Sheila Weller, author of Carrie Fisher, A Life on the Edge, is going to talk about all the cool things that she's doing. But in the grander scheme of things, we're going to be talking about the dark side of celebrity. So if you're watching this live, please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you damn, and make sure to leave comments. The best way for us to see comments, if you're on Twitter, is to click on the video, comment through Periscope. I know it sounds like a bunch of work, but we also can see you on Twitter as well. So don't worry. So if you only want to be on Twitter, that's fine. If you only want to be on Facebook or YouTube or Mixer, that's totally fine as well. Without further ado, let's get on to our square rectangle table, and we'll introduce our co-hosts first, and then we'll go on to our guest of this week. So let's go to Hudson.
I knew you were going to call on me first. You always do that. Hi, everybody. My name is Hudson Harris. I am a behavioral health systems designer. I work on how to design better systems to provide people support in mental health, kids, adults, geriatrics, and then also what?
Keep going, Hudson.
And then I also work with private organizations on how to use artificial intelligence to create better care and to help people figure out what's going on in their own brain. Very excited to be here tonight.
So you're on the side of Skynet?
No.
Let's take it to Danielle.
Hi. I currently work as a child and family therapist on the East Coast, working on my certification towards my license as alcohol and substance abuse counselor, and then my doctorate in clinical psychology. I'm an attempt and lost survivor of suicide. That's all I got for you tonight.
That's good enough. Any update on the book?
My book, I'm still working on it.
That's totally fine. No, okay. So, hey, Jackie Christmas. Hey, Maria. How you doing? Without further ado, tell the whole world, the whole SPSM Chat, Universe, Galaxy, World, Planet, Town, who is Sheila Weller?
Do I tell you that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm an author of a number of books. This is my 8th book. I live in New York. I write about iconic women. I write about social and cultural issues. I've been a magazine writer for many years, won 10 awards, written Fair, Glamour, just about every other women's magazine and other magazines in the New York Times. And my book that is out just now is Carrie Fisher, A Life on the Edge. It's a biography of her. It's gotten gratifyingly nice reviews that have said that I'm profoundly sympathetic to her. It goes into her life, her extraordinary life, her unique gifts and personality and generosity, and her challenges, which she also destigmatized. She destigmatized bipolar disorder and mental illness to a great extent when she talked on the Diane Sawyer interview in 2010 and said, I am mentally ill. I can say that. And she has worked until she died, really destigmatizing it, writing about it, talking about it, helping other people who had it, young people her age, and through her one-woman show, Wishful Drinking, really showing particularly other midlife women, but everybody, that you can be funny about your challenges, weight shaming, your age shaming, your crazy families, and that other people, even celebrities like she, even Hollywood babies like she, Hollywood royalty, had these issues. So she relieved a lot of women and took the shit out of a lot of women's lives by talking and entertaining so wonderfully about her own challenge.
Now, I want to stress that Carrie Fisher, she, of course, did not die by suicide. And we're going to be talking about celebrity in general, so this is not all about Carrie Fisher. But one thing I did want to ask you, Sheila, is
Mhm.
do you feel like the celebrity lifestyle, the Hollywood lifestyle, and being brought up into this culture, do you think that attributed to her death?
No, I think I mean she had an inherited a propensity to drug addiction from her father, and I learned from my research that you know propensity to drug addiction is inherited to a large extent. She was bipolar, and that is also inherited. And I believe her father had that as well. It's not quite as certain, but it's pretty thought through. So I think she had challenges that you can be in any career and have, and they were huge challenges. In terms of celebrity, I mean, she had a very unusual childhood. She was her parents were the perfect 50s Hollywood couple, adorable Debbie, and wholesome crooner, um, Army Reserve Eddie, and then he fell in love with the gorgeous diva, beautiful movie star Elizabeth Taylor, newly widowed, and their marriage broke up in a very dramatic way that kind of took the country by storm, and that was kind of the end of the 50s. She was a little girl who had flashbulbs popping in her face and paparazzi stalking on the front lawn at the age of 2. So that certainly contributed some definite uniqueness. Not that other people who are not celebrities don't have dramatic and painful and startling and hurtful incidents in their lives. I mean, many, many, many people do, whether it's alcoholism and impairment, violence, dysfunction. So I don't think that being born into celebrity makes you more vulnerable. I don't think even being born into celebrity in a way that dramatic necessarily does. I mean, she was also able to use that as entertainment. So I'm kind of careful about that. I don't think celebrity really does that, but there are some things that are challenging as a celebrity, if that's what you're looking for.
No, and one of the interesting things that I heard from someone else, hey, how you doing, everyone? Glad you joined us, is the possibility of Carrie Fisher having sleep apnea issues that could have possibly led to her death as well. Did you hear anything about this in your research and writing?
Yes, sleep apnea is one of the causes of death on the death certificate. And a very, very smart German friend of mine, I won't mention her name, but she's really top drawer, wrote to me when she read an excerpt of my book and said, sleep apnea doesn't kill you. It just can lead to something that it can lead to a heart attack and so forth. And I said, oops, I didn't get that wrong. But in fact, sleep apnea was a term that was used on the death certificate. And she was aware that she was vulnerable to it for a while. She would have people sleep in her bed just to keep her company. It wasn't sexual, just to because she was vulnerable, and that's was a huge part of her nature. And also to guard against the sleep apnea. That was definitely a cause, whether it was a direct cause or whether it's a heart attack. I think the heart attack was obviously the main cause.
Okay, so before we get into our first question of the Twitter chat, and of course, if you're watching on Facebook, I see Robert Roberts. Feel free to contribute to the conversation as well. But specifically, if you're on Twitter, make sure to respond to question number one with A2 or A1, then A2, go on, so on and so forth. A new question will come every 10 minutes, and fun shall be had. I think certainly stimulating conversation. So before we get to that first question, I want to give some shout outs to people who are joining us. You could put it on the grid because no one wants to see me read my phone. Hey Danielle, how are you doing? A therapist working with children and families. Hey Hudson, how you doing? Hey Jeanette, who is one of our MVPs coming all the way from UBSSW, social work student. I appreciate you. Hey Amber, how are you? Hey Joelle, how are you? Hey Krista, of course, who is running our production, who has been promoted. So if anyone else wants to take over as Twitter chat moderator, please send us a DM at SPSM Chat. I would love to work with you. And hey Marshall, how are you doing? Hey everyone else. If you're watching this, let us know. Let us know that you're here. If just want to say hi, that's cool as well. If you just agree or disagree, that's totally fine as well. Question number one, let's put it on the screen. What are some factors that can lead a celebrity towards suicide? Let's go with Hudson.
I'll push back just a little. I think that growing up in the celebrity environment is a lot like a prior history of substance abuse or alcoholism. I think I have a couple friends that were not of big famous people, but B level, and even to them, there was extraordinary amounts of pressure. The ready availability of alcohol and drugs from a very young age, I think, impacted some of their arcs. And I think that youth stuff really sets kind of a tone to do it. I think the other aspect of it is kind of what we're starting to see in some of the research around suicidality and some of the biobehavioral conditions connected to suicide in teenage girls, is that social media and a lot of that stuff can impact that. And I think for a celebrity, they've been dealing with some of that impact for a lot longer. Constant scrutiny, constantly being looked at. A lot of those things are going to lead to could lead to substance abuse, et cetera. I mean, I think in some respects, the celebrity lifestyle is almost pitch perfect for, driving somebody towards mental illness and feeling loved and yet isolated all at the same time.
Hudson, I appreciate you so much. Can I say that?
Well, I appreciate you too, Rudy.
I know. We give a piggy update every week, but I just want to give Hudson an update, and Hudson's doing great. He's a great guy.
Thanks, Rudy.
What say you, Danielle Glick? Not about Hudson, about the celebrity question.
There's so many things that are going through my head that I literally can't talk about because of HIPAA. But I just feel like one of the downsides to celebrity, in my opinion, is that nothing is kept private. And sometimes it's really entertaining to watch, which is also really sad, but that just feeds into it. They get bullied the same way that we do. They have issues the same way we do, but because of the way that they're perceived in the media, they don't really get looked at as real people. Therefore, their problems are minimized, and that includes by themselves as well. But I agree with everything Hudson said. Just add what I just said.
And what say you, Sheila? Let's put the question back on the screen.
I can only hear
Can
you hear me?
Are you good?
Because I can only hear everything.
Cool. So the question should be on screen for you to read. What are some factors that can lead a celebrity towards suicide?
What are some factors of celebrity, or do you want me to talk about some celebrity suicides that are?
Yeah, do you see the question on screen?
What are, okay, that can lead to a celebrity suicide. Okay, thank you. Great. Okay. Well, with Robin Williams, which was 2014, he was financial problems. He had career problems. He also possibly was bipolar or manic, as they used to call it. Some people thought he was. I think he did not. Louis' dementia. But there was something that Carrie said about Robin Williams when he died that I thought was almost like her writing her own eulogy. And I'm going to read it. He said, "He made us all feel like we would. He brought joy and surprise, and he would take you places you wouldn't even know you wanted to be. And that's what made him so generous. Like I did, he would take eagerness that you on people's night sky like a miracle. Everything would end up on his grill. He'd walk in a room, and all the energy there would impact him. Anything would hurt him. It's fun, but who are your peers? Who was his peers? It was incredibly lonely to be brilliant, and he didn't have a choice." I thought that was so moving and so poignant. He was out there feeling everything, reacting, being a magnet. A ex-in-law of Carrie's, who was very articulate, said she was a magnet, and magnets die young. Magnets really secretly want to be alone, despite the fact that they also wanted to be a magnet. So with Robin Williams, it was the incredible sensitivity to life and this magnetism that also the flip side of that was depression. With Margot Kidder, who died on May 13, 2018, was a friend of Carrie's. She, like Carrie, had what's called a dual diagnosis. She had a propensity to addiction. I don't know, or some kind of drug taking, and she was it's just hard for incidents of walking around in LA and being insulted by the media. This was before Carrie made her statement about destigmatizing illness, and the media treated Margaret kind of meanly, or with odd curiosity when she was found kind of stumbling through a strange backyard in LA. They didn't realize that she had an illness. But she struggled a lot. She was brilliant. She was an activist. We were Facebook friends. She was tough. But it was also an issue which we can talk about maybe at the end if you want, about midlife women and suicide. There's been a huge spike over the last 20 years. The Centers for Disease Control found that 45% more women, I think 50 and older, committed suicide than before in the past 20 years. That's a huge leap. So Margot was also, and I think, you're very vulnerable when you're an older woman, especially in the media, especially as a celebrity, but even in ordinary life, you're invisible, you're not as desired, your chances of life are over, you're tired, you may be ill, you may have to take care of your parents and your kids. Lots of things contribute to it. So with Margot, it was the number of those things. Do you want me to keep talking about celebrities or?
No, I just wanted to say that one of the things I'm most fascinated by are the people that you never thought like would die by suicide, that you thought like had it everything, had the movie star lifestyle, were happy, had everything, and then it happens. And I think one of the things that can be a contributing factor is the fact that you can put on a mask, you can play these characters, you can put on this public persona that very, very few people see the real you, and you can be hiding a lot behind that mask. So I think that is one of the factors as part of being a celebrity, is that can lead you down that rabbit hole. And regardless of suicide or not, I think there's a lot of people struggling that are living that lifestyle and are not open about it, and maybe just don't even see it themselves because they're so lost in their larger than life personas. But we can go on and on and on. Let's go on to question number 2. I'll get to your comment, Diane. Don't worry. Hey, Salty Meg. Hey, Ashley J.A. Question number 2. How does our culture exasperate the mental health of celebrities? Which kind of bleeds into from question number 1. So let's get right into it. Let's go to Hudson. Unmute. There we go.
There we go. So I think, kind of drawing what I said before, I think a lot of what kind of drives the mental health of celebrities is the fact that like their life is really based in popularity. And I think that creates all the problems I think we've already talked about. I think one of the other things that I've experienced and making friends with like a couple of, relatively famous musicians and a couple of smaller actors is that they find it really hard to find people who want to talk to them about them. A lot of the people that I've talked to in that industry find that people think they are a character, or they think they are the person on the show, even if like they understand they're not. They still be like, oh hey, like you're Ron Swanson. Well, no, it's Nick Offerman, and he has like this whole incredible life and story. But like I think that's part of the problem, is that not only is there this, you put on a mask when you're in public, but your job is literally putting on a mask to then be somebody else. And I think that creates some of those challenges. If you look at some of the really intense method actors, Daniel Day-Lewis, Heath Ledger, actually Heath Ledger's is a really good one, like people who really dove into the characters they were in. I think it messes with your brain a lot because you want to be the best. You want people to appreciate you for who you are. And I'll see if I can find the story about one of the things that happened with Heath Ledger during the filming of Batman. But like, I think that push to really become someone else on TV, I think in the long run really impacts people, because I've also talked to people who did something like that and really went after it, and then it just went, and then that's just got to be crushing, because there's not any way to turn around bad reviews or panned movies other than to try and go out and prove you can do it again. So it's a real Sisyphean task to be a good actor, if you will, or actress.
Now, let me ask you, Hudson, like you've given big presentations, you're public figure, so to speak. Do you ever feel tempted to go down that road
Putting on masks.
of drugs and sex and
Mm-hmm.
violence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. The conferences I go to are real barn burners, and there's lots like beyond Thunderdome death style stuff. But no, I will say, in an honest place, when you're on the road a lot, and I've had a couple times where I've done tremendous road stints over a period of months and months. At the end of the day, you don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to like watch TV. Sitting there and having a drink is like the easiest thing. And I think that I could very easily see how that could just lead down a path that would really spiral. Like the longer you were on it, the harder it would get. And it takes a lot more effort when you're out there on the road, when you're putting yourself in front of people to not fall into those traps. So normal coping mechanisms don't work as well. And like the other really weird thing that I've experienced is like some of like the really big stage stuff that I've done. I've like, here's a little insight to my brain. Like I felt this tremendous letdown as soon as it was done. Like months and months and months, sometimes years of prep to like make something happen and to give a talk and to present something. And then you finish and you're like, oh my God, what now? And like, again, think about what people use to fill that feeling and that void. And I think I would imagine that it's similar when you're acting.
Hudson Harris, continually the most well-lit gentleman in all of SPSM land. Cool. Let's take it to Danielle. Make sure to unmute your mic, Danielle.
Did we lose someone? Where'd she go?
The focus is on you, Danielle. Okay.
Can you ask the question again?
Put the question back on the screen. Let's see it here. I came up with the questions. Like I should know this, but here we go. Question number 2 for people. Here we go. How does our culture exasperate the mental health of celebrities?
I think going off of something that was just said, it's like you are two different people. And I know obviously Rudy, Hudson, you guys know about like my whole like music life here. I talk to a lot of people all the time who feel like they have to continuously be this person and they have to play this role for the way that people perceive them for so long that they actually start to lose who they really are. And I think that feeds into them starting to abuse substances and end up in facilities that I work at and have these breakdowns because they can't be themselves. They're being paid all of this money or taking photos all the time and doing all this stuff, and then when they do show us like that much of who they really are, everybody, myself included, like I can't sit here and deny it. Like there are celebrities that I am currently following that part of the appeal to them is that I am seeing them fall apart, and it's like I want to help them get to a better place. And I think a lot of people take that in the wrong direction and bully them and feed into that, and then that goes into mental health crises and suicide attempts and stuff. So I think it's hard because where do you start and where does the celebrity version of you end?
So, speaking of celebrities, we get our Piggy update. We also now have our Hudson update. But what is our weekly Aaron Carter update?
He was in the hospital the other day. I don't know why. So people are now asking me if he's my boyfriend, which I think is really funny. Not the case. But I'm meeting him in like 2 weeks, so that I'll give you a better update after I meet him.
So you're going to meet Aaron Carter in person before you meet me in person.
I mean, that's the way it looks, but you and Joelle are supposed to be out on the East Coast at some point soon, right? So
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see you and Aaron. So what does Sheila have to say? Sheila, let's put the question back on the screen. How does our culture exasperate the mental health of celebrities?
Oh, by scrutiny and by criticism and by going viral with a person's flaws or issues. I mean, when Carrie had a meltdown on a cruise, when I think Renee Zellweger had a little facial work done or didn't, it went viral. When when Janet Jackson had a wardrobe malfunction and went viral. Just thinking of the women, when Alec Baldwin said something very, daughter went viral. So, and I think he talked about thinking of kids committing suicide after the huge amount of criticism he got after that. Some of it was justified and some of it was in retrospect. But, from everything going viral, and that can happen to celebrities. I mean, you hear of these young kids who commit suicide because of that, outed on social media, being criticized on social media. And young girls, teenage girls, really have it hard on social media. Not only do they get flack from boys, but they get flack from other girls who seem to be living a better life, a thinner life, a more social life, a life with better clothes, with better social life. You hear about this all the time. So what happens with celebrities is more so. I must say that it's cosseted by fame, wealth, adoration, living in a very glamorous world. So I don't necessarily feel sorry for them, but that can happen. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you wanted to talk about the one that really hit me. Do you want me to dive into that, or do you want to wait for later?
Let's wait until later, but we will get to that. And I was going to say that part of the way that we are responsible is that a lot of us, many of us, we like to put people on a pedestal, like people have said in the comments. I see you, but then we also like to take them down from the pedestal. We like to see them crash and burn. People like Britney Spears, people like Amanda Bynes, people. It happens all the time. Like it's just like part of celebrity. You get high, and then we take you down, and that's going to lead to mental health issues. That's going to lead to breakdowns. That's going to lead to suicide. And we don't seem to learn as a society that that's what we're creating. There's a lot of people, they like that. They enjoy it. They enjoy tearing down celebrities. It's just part of it's part of television. It's part of social media. It's part of their daily entertainment. Let's see what celebrity is getting in trouble. But that has a toll on the individual. I think we forget that they are people, and people die because of it. Whether they're a good person or not, that is just a fact. So let's go to question number 3. Question number 3. And that would be, what celebrity suicide had the most emotional impact on you and why? And I think that's going to have the most responses from everyone, including those watching on the live stream. So without further ado, let's get to Hudson. Unmute your mic, Hudson.
Sorry, I had a helicopter going overhead. In San Diego, we have helicopters. We have daytime helicopters, nighttime helicopters, police helicopters, kids helicopters, all hours of the day.
Ooh, kids helicopters.
I love helicopters. For me, it was Anthony Bourdain. I used to be a chef and briefly experienced some success and was able to work with some really fantastic award-winning people. And his approach to things really inspired me. And I left Singapore. I spent some time in Indonesia, Malaysia, and then predominantly in Singapore, and had a brush with death while I was there. Got very ill, and not long after that, he did his Indonesia episode, and it was, I think, the most connected I've ever felt to somebody I'd never met is when he does this monologue at the end about Indonesia, and I'll tweet it out here after I'm done. But it was so powerful. And the thing about Anthony that really struck me is that he was very real. Even when he was gone, like it's hard to describe, but he was so real about what he said, what he did, how he treated people, and he had this brutal honesty with himself and with what was going on around that was just, it struck me. And I also lost a couple friends in similar circumstances in a similar field, and so it's always, I post about Tony all the time. Yeah.
Danielle?
My mic was muted, sorry.
It's week 1, so it's fine.
Robin Williams was actually my hardest, because a couple of, like 2 months before is when the person I was dating had died by suicide. And it seemed like when Eric passed away, like everyone started dying by suicide. I lost like a ton of friends that year. And there was always something about Robin Williams that I felt like I could relate to, because I felt like, and I still do feel like I'm two different people, and that it's very hard for me to show who I really am to people. Like I have to build a lot of trust. And there's a persona, and I was an actor for a while too, until I just wasn't. There was like this person that always just wanted to make everybody laugh and didn't care if you were laughing at me as long as you were laughing. It was because it made me feel better because of how sad I was. I grew up with major depressive disorder, which is part of why I have tried to take my own life so many times. But Robin Williams, like it was just really, really hard for me. And it was so close to Eric's suicide too, that it was just, I remember reading the news and being like, okay, well, I can't do this anymore. And it was really a bad time for me, because shortly after it, after he had succeeded, I attempted again. So I feel like that feeds into like the whole topic that we're discussing tonight. It's just that like there's always more than meets the eye, and you can't always tell when a person's suffering, and it really isn't relevant what their diagnosis is, because I know like a lot of people are like, oh, was he bipolar, was he wasn't, like it doesn't matter. He was suffering and he's not here anymore. And what his passing taught me was that it was important to remember the good things instead of the way that they died. And I think that one thing that pisses me off about suicide in general is that, oh, well, how did he kill himself? Or why did she kill herself, or whatever? Why not remember the good things about the people that are no longer with us? So he kind of taught me to appreciate and be grateful for the things that I got from the people that passed away in my life. I'm really tired. I'm sorry if I'm chopping out here.
No, you're fine, Danielle. Let me ask you a question, Danielle.
Yes.
So, when you were getting into acting, did you ever have ambitions to be a celebrity, to be a big star? Like, what was going on in your head?
I think that there was always a part of me that was like, I want to be a big star, but that was not my goal. It was actually when I was in high school, one of my teachers was an actor part-time, and he saw how terribly I was struggling with depression. And it was him who was like, you need something. Why not try this? And he knew that a big part of my thing was that I felt like I was invisible. And so he gave me this platform where people were watching me, and it was the scariest thing in the world. But it really was always a coping skill for me. I actually intended on going to school to become a lawyer in the first place. That was my thing. But midway during my freshman year of college, I actually switched schools, went to acting conservatory, and then graduated with a bachelor's in film studies, whatever the hell you want to say it is. But I just wanted to do something in art, and that was the medium that worked for me, was performing. That was also why I have like 1,000 different instruments in my life. But it was if I became famous, cool. If I didn't become famous, cool. It was just something that I did for me. And it made other people feel good too by watching me and laughing at me. I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
No, it did. Did we get to Hudson yet?
Yes, we did.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so let's go to Sheila, because I have more questions for Danielle, because Danielle
Yeah.
is probably closest to anyone that could have been led down to that sordid lifestyle, and we're glad that she didn't. We're glad that instead she chose to use her fame to be on SPSM Chat instead. So
Do
Sheila,
you
what
want me to
celebrity
tell you
suicide
about
has the
the one
most?
that?
Yes.
Yeah, she was a celebrity. She was a producer. Jill Messick was a producer, manager first of Rose McGowan, then she worked for Harvey Weinstein a little bit. This was sort of the downfall. Then she produced or co-produced the wonderful Tina Fey, Amy Schumer movies, or Tina Fey. Anyway, and she had bipolar disorder, worked very hard to and depression, and worked very hard to treat it, which is very hard to treat. There's no cure for it. And when the whole Harvey Weinstein thing broke, Rose McGowan really went after her and said, I mean, there was an incident early on in his being bad, or early on in his being known about being bad, where I think the Aspen Film Festival, he was in a hot tub with Rose McGowan, or told her to be in a hot tub, and Jill Messick really helped Rose McGowan in that regard. He protected her. She went after her. She, it was good. But then I think a while later, show business being show business, he invited her into the company in some form. It was not right after this, and I think she worked a little bit for him. I mean, he was, before this was known about him, he was a producer of very high quality films. Then she did her, much on her own. When the whole thing broke, a lot of the women who were the accusers, and rightfully so, were very vocal about it. And I hope I'm right. I was a bit, not totally fresh in mind, but Rose McGowan kept using Jill Messick's name again and again, and was accusing her of, working for the enemy kind of thing. This was so painful to Jill Messick, and it triggered other, psychological issues that she had and she committed suicide on in February of 2018. And I remember being just very taken by that, because I think that the Me Too movement, as important and powerful as it is, and this incredible new feminism is on steroids. We never had a feminism this total before. That's largely because of social media, and because of the earlier feminisms, including the early 70s. But there was so much, I think, accusation that perhaps was untempered, was perhaps overdone. And I feel that she was a victim of that. So she's not a celebrity, not a movie star, not like Robin Williams or even Margot Kidder, but that affected me. And I felt that was saying something about the culture, and so as a platform, even if they have been a victim, they can wrongly or intemperately accuse somebody else. And it gets in a viral atmosphere. You see yourself accused every day. And in her case, it's over to kill herself.
No, that's totally fine, and I'm glad you shared that. And speaking of sharing,
Yeah.
let's see what people on the Twitter are saying. Joelle says Robin Williams died on my birthday. I was struggling with brutal life shit because of because of especially difficult suicide thoughts, behaviors. I didn't feel safe to be open about it. I knew I had to start talking or die. Pretty much, his death emphasized that for me. Celia says, I have to say Robin Williams because I always saw something special in him beyond what I saw in the movies, and Chester Bennington was a great loss for me as well. I knew he struggled, and him singing these songs was like he was singing about me. Jeanette says, I'm not sure if I can answer this, but each time it happens, there is so much coverage and speculation about what and why it happened. It can be so triggering for others who have lost people they were close to. I agree. We got a lot of Robin Williams, which is no surprise. Definitely Robin Williams. Kathleen Lisborg LMSW says, definitely Robin Williams. I just assumed that the person he projected was really who he was. And I guess if you look at his body of work, he was an incredibly deep and layered person. I hope he has peace where he is. Youth Mental Health Canada says definitely Robin Williams, just felt gutted that he was gone. I don't know if he could explain why. If I could explain why, he lived on the edge so much and was so out there, but it was shocking. The intensity he lived, shared, brought joy, was felt by so many. Michelle says Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. I grew up listening to Linkin Park, and the words to their songs really resonated with me, especially when I was struggling with my own mental health issues as a teen. Anything else besides Robin Williams? Okay, so let's get on to question number 4. And that is there something fundamental about being a celebrity that is harmful to one's mental health? Let's go back to Hudson. There we go. Hudson, why not?
So I actually prepared this answer because I've been trying to think about this one. I mean, I research and prepare, but like I actually have something specific. I think the thing that I really found, going to your question earlier, Rudy, about like when I was traveling a lot, or what I could have gone down that path. I think that the fundamental aspect of being a celebrity that is going to drive mental health issues is this goal not process mentality, and it's something that like when I finish a big talk and then all of a sudden there's this huge letdown. Well, that's because getting to that goal was what drove me and what made me go. And then as soon as you get to that, then it's gone. And so something that I really tried to do and focus on is trying to create a broader, more of a journey, as cliche as it is, more of a journey than a destination. And I found that the ups and downs that come from good talks or, good media, bad media, whatever it is, hit a lot less, and that they're just places on the way. So I think that there's something in there with how celebrities work, that it's never enough to just be. You always have to be next. And I think that's where you're just never going to win.
Danielle?
Okay, I just had a total brain fart. Can you please do me a favor and put the question back up on the screen?
Is there something fundamental about being a celebrity that is harmful to one's mental health?
Well, I think that the most harmful thing is the fact that you don't have any privacy. Even the stuff that you keep private somehow finds a way of coming out, and it's used against you. Like I was saying earlier, it's go to my secret lover Aaron Carter, because that's the funniest thing in the world. People are misconstruing. Like I was in a live video of his once, and people were sitting there and they're like, you're this and you're that, and like none of these people are people like myself who went to school and work in this field. So we see what we see, and then we make assumptions that are typically incorrect, and then bully these people. And it's based off typically like that much that we're seeing. And I think that that's really, really harmful. And I think that's something that even non-celebrities face too. It's people talk and they say things that they don't understand, or they say things, half-assed, and it makes things worse. And the one benefit that I do think celebrities have is that they do have the money that can allow them proper treatment and proper rehabilitation, whatever that the issue may be, whether it's substance use or, mental health related. They can check into these facilities and get, top of the line care that people typically can't. But even when it comes to getting treatment, somehow going into a psychiatric hospital or going into rehab is also found out. So to me, the biggest issue would be the privacy. And that's where people like myself on the, the provider side, we have to work even harder to make sure that they feel that they're safe to get the help that they actually need.
Now, let me ask you, Danielle, do you see certain patterns as far as celebrities where you could see that that descent happening that can lead to suicide? What are some telling factors, especially early on?
Okay, so I know Krista is going to be hearing me and laughing because I say that it's an individual thing, but I do think that the people that I've HIPAA. I do think that there are telling signs. I see stuff in the media. I've had conversations with people that I actually did date that worked in music and film, where I could see that there was stuff. And again, it goes back to privacy. It goes back to being misunderstood. It goes to, feeling like they have to be one person in the public and another person, it does. It's like I've seen a little bit of erratic behavior turn into, I need to take some, I'm thinking of one person in particular who turned to crack, and they use that to kind of like numb all of the stuff that they were dealing with. And that actually made them more depressed and more depressed. And they did get suicidal, but they did find sobriety too. And this is an ex that is in the public, not someone I've worked with. But I think that there are tells, and I think that a lot of people could see these tells, and it's social media. It's all over the place. There's no privacy.
What say you, Hudson?
I already answered. Oh, I already answered.
I
But I
just
will
like
go.
hearing from you more, Hudson. That's my problem in life.
Here's the thing that I'll add, because I found the thing I was looking for on method acting with Heath Ledger. When he prepped for the Dark Knight role, he locked himself in a hotel for somewhere around 3 weeks or so, and then his house again for another week, and kept a journal where he wrote out his dialogue. He watched Stanley Kubrick films, all these different things, and got really deep into the character. And I think that was what I was kind of talking about earlier, is that their job is to not be themselves. And so I think that's another big contributing factor.
What say you, Sheila? I don't know what's going on back there. You there, Sheila?
Okay, so you're asking me if there's something fundamental about being a celebrity that is harmful to one's mental health. Yeah, again, I don't really think so. I don't. I mean, I do know that there's there's a high degree of correspondence between disorders like bipolar disorder is quite corresponded with creativity. A lot of creative people are bipolar, so maybe some people are have an energy level and a charisma and a magnetism that powers them to become celebrities, and they really do have a disorder. I hate to use that word, or they have a situation, a condition that can be wonderful in many ways, and most people do not want to give it up, but can be very challenging in other ways. I think that's true about a lot of people. And you hear people say that comedians are are in pain. You hear that said about John Belushi. I wrote about John Belushi in my book on Carrie, and somebody said he was very sad, which we didn't really know. So there may be, but again, I think you're pretty lucky if you're a celebrity. I gotta say, I think that health problems and problems with upbringings and problems with getting along with other people and insecurity, and especially these days when there's such a in beauty. I think those problems are harder for people who are not celebrities, to be honest with you. I know I'm a little bit of an outlier here, but I feel that is probably true.
Well, if we all agreed with each other on SPSM Chat, that'd be a pretty boring show, right? So, before...
Celebrities.
Yeah.
I was thinking of which celebrities committed. I didn't. It was Robin Williams and Mark Twitter and who else?
There's Anthony Bourdain.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, he definitely want to bring up that. I mean, I don't know that talked about his depression before. I was just very aware, but that was a shock. He seemed to have everything in the world, and it was that happened. Yeah.
All right. Hudson's already ready for the piggy update, but we'll get to you, Hudson. Don't worry. Before we get into final thoughts, let's give see if anyone else. Youth Mental Health Canada says, and this is your all response to question number 4: lack of privacy with expectation that society has right to constant intrusion, harassment, analysis into lives of people, social media, use of paparazzi, 24/7 news. Can you mute your mic, Hudson?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was.
No. Moving on. Kathleen says, I really don't know since I'm not a celebrity. That's fair enough response. Joelle says, I think it's just that you never have any privacy. I think I already read that. Ashley says, similar to what Hudson was saying, our society values the destination versus the journey. I don't believe this is fundamental to only celebs, but to our cultural ideologies. Jeanette says, the role expectations in society and knowledge that things will likely go public, so they might not access what they need early and instead only get what they need when they are in crisis. Early support can be so helpful, Melody, how are you? Says it's unnatural to have so many people clamoring for intimate details of your life. It must be strange to have so many people loving you without actually really knowing you beyond the celebrity performance. Joelle again says, what is harmful about celebrity is a quote unquote goal, not process mentality. There is something in there that is never enough to just be. You always have to be next. You are just never going to win like that. And Lori says the pressure of being in the public eye, needing to be perfect. So before we get into final thoughts, hey Lori, watching on Periscope. Hey Nancy, recently lost a husband. Or personally, so my heart goes out to you. Says having the best insurance on earth does not matter, and we talked about that earlier. I'm glad you're joining us, Nancy. I know you're going through a hard time, and that is true, especially with mental health care. You can have like first rate, first class health care in general, but the mental health care is often the worst part of it. And if you're someone, if you're
Watch
living
your
in a
mouth.
culture where we don't want to talk about mental health in general, then that can lead to a lot of people suffering in silence. So yes, things like that can be part of the problem, or part of the problem. Let's be honest. Let's
They are
go
definitely
into
definitely part of the problem, but at the same time, as a mental health professional, I'll tell you, sometimes, and I actually had this conversation with Krista a couple of days ago, it's really heartbreaking, and I know that it kind of goes against the grain of what we're talking about here, but I do feel, as a mental health professional, that sometimes things are just not preventable. You can give everybody the tools that they need, you can give them all the treatment, medication, whatever it is. Um, and I think that sometimes, sadly, there's just not enough to stop someone from doing what they want to do.
and that is true. I feel like you and Danielle, and you and Krista are having like some epic conversations offline. I don't know what's going on there.
I was helping her work on one of her papers. She interviewed me.
Final thoughts. It is time for final thoughts. Let's go to Danielle. We'll end with you, Hudson. Don't worry. Like,
My final thoughts. I think that everybody needs to learn to respect each other. Um, because even if you're not a celebrity, privacy is a big issue. We can use social media as a tool to help people, but mostly to hurt people, um, by misconstruing what we see, and not respecting people's privacy. Like, I use social media to let people know that I like psychology and metal music. Nobody has any clue what I'm doing otherwise, and that's the way that I like it. Krista had messaged me and said that my final thought should also include, this question is, why does everybody think that I have secret boyfriends such as Aaron Carter? I would like Twitter to answer this for me.
is that a legitimate question that you're putting out there into the world?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's legit. Now it's legit.
Okay, there we go. So coming to an SPSM chat in the future, Aaron Carter, courtesy of Danielle
I
Glick.
hope so.
It's gonna happen.
I heard they're dating.
No, I signed a non-disclosure. Come on.
Okay, we'll talk about that on SPSM chat after hours. Which, if you want to give us money, we'll totally let you be a part of. Just saying, things go on. Sheila Weller, our guest of the week. We'll let you have final words. And then Hudson, you're piggy update. Don't worry. But Sheila Weller, final words. Any last words of wisdom? Anything you want to promote, including your current project?
Oh, well, my book is Carrie Fisher, A Life on the People who like, look at Carrie, and so many people do. Will take a look at it. I'm really gratified that the reviewers have unanimously said it's sympathetic to her and understanding of her, and she was just amazing. There was nobody like her. So that's one thing I want to say. Also, again, with suicide in midlife women, I think that's a huge issue that I wrote about it a year ago. And again, that statistic really is stunning. Over the past 20 years, 45% more women, I guess over the age of 50, but something like that, have committed suicide than 20 years earlier. That's a huge statistic. And I think we have to look at that and look at the reasons why and really study it. 30% more men did, 45% more women. It's bad when the figure goes up at all, and I think that's something to look at. But the age difference, the difference is significant. So those are my final thoughts.
Hudson.
Hello, everyone. Hamlet says hi. Say hello, Hamlet. Hamlet grew a bunch more teeth. Yeah, like he does. And he is now has his own media agent. We are likely to reap dozens of dollars off of his video eating a rose. But as of last week, if you would like him to eat something specific that is healthy, I will take a video, have him eat it, take a video, and send it to you. As for my final thoughts on today's show, I just want to remind everybody that celebrities are real people too. They are not the people they portray. They are people that we don't know. And if you ever get the opportunity to talk to one, ask them real questions. And you'll be surprised at just how regular they are, even with all of the fame and resources and money and whatever. They're just people like us and deserve privacy and respect.
I always wonder, like, what's the reaction of guests when they see the piggy and everything? Like, what is going on here? Like, why are we ending with a pig dancing and licking
This is
Hudson's
Hamlet,
face?
the mental health pig. He is a walking ball of joy that does nothing but try and make people happy. So
And
at the end of SPSM, do be happy.
You know, I felt kind of awkward, and I didn't realize at the time when we had Melanie Moisey on that Muslims, like, they don't eat pork or any of that. So we're like, oh God, like, I
You should
hope we
have had
didn't.
Hamlet on.
I know, like, I know. I hope we didn't offend our Muslim friends, but I appreciate you, Hamlet. I appreciate you, Hudson. I appreciate you, Danielle. Sheila, thank you for walking into the lion's den that is suicide prevention social media, SPSM Chat. You can find this archived at spsmchat.com. There's also a blog that goes along with it that I write immediately after we're done. Even if I don't feel like it or not, it's going up. So we're also on Facebook. We're also on YouTube, which is probably the easiest way to watch these older episodes online. And twitter.com/SPSMchat, of course. Mixter.com/SPSMchat and Facebook.com/SPSMchat. That is going to do it. We got another one of Danielle's people next week. So I look forward to that. Melissa Wiedner.
Widener.
It is Jesus. See, this is what happens when I have to talk about guests that Danielle brings on. So, Melissa, we're going to bring you on. It's your turn next week, and we're going to bring the fire like we do every single week until next week, until next Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hold your piggies close.
Bye.
Copycat.